Hi everybody and welcome back. Nancy Beauvair here with Agape and Next Steps. Over the course of the last couple of videos, I put out information that was topical to specific generations. I did one video about the millennial generation, and just recently, more recently, I did one about Generation X, which is kind of the lost generation, or sandwiched in between the millennials and the baby boomers, and as such, the millennials and the boomers seem to get all the press because of the large numbers, and Gen X kind of is just lost out there and doesn't get a lot of attention. So I felt it was time and it was appropriate to also address the issues that Generation X is coming up with. Today I wanted to talk about a subject that crosses the boundaries of all generations. It's something that we're all faced with. Now, predominantly, my audience is in North America. I do have a few people overseas, but for the bulk of my audience, you are located in North America. And so I'll speak specifically to this area. Housing has become at crisis levels in a lot of communities, depending, of course, where you live, the size of the area that you're living in. It can be a real challenge to find, forget about affordable housing, it can be a real challenge to find housing, period. Right now, we're going through another population boom here in Alberta, and people are struggling to find a place to rent. There's lots of construction happening, but a lot of those properties are going to be priced higher than a lot of renters can afford, or just simply that those renters can't qualify for the mortgage. So we do have this issue with people having safe, affordable housing. And as I say, this crosses all generations, whether you're a university student trying to find affordable housing while you're going to school, or whether you're a senior that is looking for a place that you can afford, especially if you're on a fixed income, is becoming such a challenge. So I wanted to address that primarily because yesterday I met with a gentleman. He and his wife are realtors here in Calgary, and they work with seniors. They're senior specialists. So I asked the gentleman what brought him to specializing in that area. And it's a story really that all of us can or should be able to relate to. His mother had been widowed for several years, and she felt it was time for her to sell her house. And given that he was a realtor, she asked him if he would manage it. When he went to talk to her about listing the property, obviously because he was her son or is her son, he asked some specific questions that it dawned on him that really these questions should be asked of every senior who is considering downsizing. Are they going to age in place? What are they going to do? And it's not necessarily that realtors aren't compassionate or don't care about that. I think it's just that they're not focused on that. That's not their primary motivation for the listing, is not necessarily to make sure that they go through a counseling session, essentially, to make sure that the senior is doing what is in their best interest. So that brings me back to one of the things that I do when I do the consultation work that I do with people, is I do talk with the seniors in question and their families, and we go through what the process is and why the senior is looking to change their living arrangements, if they are looking to change their living arrangements. If somebody has no chronic ailments or isn't disabled, doesn't anticipate having anything coming up in at least the next 10 to 20 years, there are many, many instances when seniors can continue to age in their home, age in place. And that really is kind of the trend. I know here, one of the senior facilities that I spoke to, they have primarily assisted living homes for seniors, and their average age of people going into assisted living, which in this case provides light housekeeping and meals, their average age of entry is 82. So more and more seniors are staying in their homes longer and longer. But you have to plan for that. You have to plan financially, you have to anticipate your needs, and you have to know if you are going to have to retrofit the house, if you do have some potential physical ailments or chronic illnesses that are going to affect your mobility, can you safely stay where you are? And if not, then what are your options? So they're not questions that are easily answered. They do take a bit of consideration, and sometimes we have to do what we don't want. But let's get back to there being a crisis. There's just not enough places for anybody right now in certain municipalities to find to live. That gets even worse when you're dealing with people who have affordability issues, such as students. There's obviously the working poor, and there's obviously also the aging population that are frequently on a fixed income. We just simply don't have enough housing to safely support people. So what are we going to do about it? We have to band together. We have to start looking at deeper solutions for some of these things rather than just looking for a band-aid for right now. So the politicians will throw money at builders and they'll say, let's build some more houses, which is fine in the short term. That is going to help put a band-aid on. Some of the more recent incentives from governments, it amounts to a drop in the bucket. The number of houses that it's going to provide are minimal at best. So we need to start looking at other things that we can do to provide affordable housing. It used to be when I grew up in a family of 7. There were five kids and 2 adults. And in that family of 7, we lived almost all the time in a 3-bedroom home. My parents had a bedroom, my sister and I had a bedroom, and my 3 brothers shared a bedroom. And we were really lucky if we had a place that had 2 bathrooms. Then we got into the era of excess, I'm going to call it, where people had more disposable income, we had more double income families, and as a result, the houses were bigger. And it got to the point that almost the expectation is, or was, that every child not only gets their own bedroom, but ideally they all have their own bathrooms too. We don't really need all that space. It's a nice to have, but we don't really need that kind of space. So we need to start thinking about what can we do to solve our housing without there having to be mansions to house everybody. There's a trend, I'm sure everybody's seen, there's a trend out there for tiny homes. Well, tiny homes doesn't necessarily mean 200 square feet, although I have seen some of those as well. But what about creating communities of tiny homes? They can be well maintained, they can provide everything that you need, they can be in a community setting with lovely gardens and maybe a community center. What about something like that that doesn't cost a fortune to create, that doesn't provide too much excess, that can create a sense of community? I spoke with somebody at a housing authority here in Alberta about that, and their answer was that it gets more difficult to deliver services. I don't quite understand that. If you have a community of a dozen tiny homes with seniors being able to live independently within these places, and some of them need home care, I don't understand why one person can't go there and see the 12 people. It's not much different than going to a senior's apartment or a senior's facility and having to take an elevator to see different people. But I don't know. They're more experienced than I am in that area. My point here is we have to start thinking outside of the box. We have to start thinking about carriage house suites. We have to start thinking about mother-in-law suites. We have to start thinking more about the tiny homes. So I bring that to all of you out there too. I'd love it if you would pop something into the comments about what you think we should do. If you want to know more information about the realtor who specializes in helping transition seniors here in Calgary, visit my blog article following up on this video for his name. You can also jump onto the shop page on the website and you can download one of the guides there that will help walk you through some of the things that you need to know to navigate your own aging process so that you can age well and live the best life that you can. So thanks for this, and I'll see you again next time. Bye for now.